welcome to episode 108. There is no better time than right now to plan your vacation getaway. Don't have the time to plan? Use the friendly travel agents at 3D Travel Company by going to our website, www.whodidthatvoice.co, and clicking the Book Now button today on the left-hand side. Hurry and plan your trip today so you can travel away.
Welcome to Who Did That Voice, the show where we take an in-depth look at voiceover. And now, here's your host, Trenton Larkin.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the show. Today's special guest is the voice of Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic from Fantastic Four, World's Greatest Heroes. Stay tuned for a clip and then an amazing interview with today's special guest.
Iron Man, I presume.
Welcome to Stark Enterprises.
You're just as arrogant as Stark. It must be something he values in his employees.
We can't just let him go, Reed.
Of course not. No doubt Doom is expecting both Iron Man and us. And while Stark's Iron Man armor is quite capable, no one knows Doom better than we do.
Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello everyone and welcome back to the show. Today I am super excited to be bringing you an interview with Hiro Kanagawa. Thank you so much for giving us some of your valuable time today, Hiro.
My pleasure. What can I do for you today?
Well, we're going to talk about voiceover and acting in general. The very first thing I love to do when I have a guest on the show, especially for the first time, Hiro, is get to know them. So tell me about the little boy Hiro who grew up into the man he is today, and how did he get into acting and voice acting and screen acting, everything that you've done?
I was born in Japan, and when I was around 3, my family moved to North America, and I grew up in Guelph, Ontario, and Sterling Heights, Michigan. And then when I was 14, we moved back to Japan. I went to high school there, and then I went to college in the States. And I've been all around, but I started acting probably in high school. I did some student films and some student plays, and that's mainly how I got into it. And then in college, I was not a theater major. I was a visual arts major. I was a sculptor back in those days.
Nice.
But I did perform in student plays in college, and I also made some short films of my own. And I've always been involved in the arts and especially the performing arts in one aspect or another. When I moved to Vancouver in the early 90s, it all kind of sort of came together professionally. And my career as an actor really has developed along with the film industry here in Vancouver. We've kind of grown up together in a way. Voice is not something that I pursued specifically, but once I had established myself to some extent as a film and television actor, I started to get offers for voice work, primarily for doing some overdubs of previously produced shows from Japan, Japanese anime shows.
Yes. Yeah.
But and then along the way, I started to pick up some prelay work. Most notably, the largest roles I've had are the foolish magistrate on a children's show called Sagwa, the Chinese Siamese cat. It was based on a story by Amy Tan, and then of course Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
On the Marvel series.
Absolutely. And Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, is one of my favorite characters. And so when I was researching, your background and stuff, I was like, holy cow, I loved that show. And I own the box set actually. And so I was like, this is totally fantastic because you are a fantastic actor, Hiro.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Well, you did play Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, on Fantastic Four, World's Greatest Heroes, and you were on that show with some actors who I've previously had on the show. Sam Vincent, who played Herbie, your computer, kind of like Iron Man's Jarvis, and then I've had David Kay on the show, who played Iron Man, and Andrew Kavadas, who was Bruce Banner, the alter ego of Hulk. So it's really cool that I'm finally getting you on the show because having the leader of the team is super important.
Well, that's Sam Vincent and David Kay. I know them very well. I've known them for years and years. David Kay, we just connected. It's interesting you mentioned. We just connected a couple of days ago on Facebook.
Fantastic.
After losing touch for many years, and I recall he was in an X-Files episode that I was in, season 2 of X-Files.
Oh, wow.
Firewalker. Yeah, we were in the same. So as I say, we've grown up with the industry together. That was early days.
Absolutely.
And Sam Vincent, I see him around town, and I've been on a number of animation things with him. But he's a hilarious character.
He is.
He just does. He's always cracking us up in the recording studio.
Well, Hiro, tell me, what was it like for you to get to voice the leader of the Fantastic Four on a Marvel entity?
That was obviously a tremendous privilege and honor, especially because Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, is such an iconic character.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think it was doubly significant and great for me, being an someone of Asian ancestry, to get to voice a Caucasian character who is so well known and iconic. I thought that was significant, and and it was I was proud of that.
I think that was actually fantastic. I am really glad that they did cast you as Reed Richards. Your voice just comes across so crisp and clean. I mean, you're an actor that I've seen, like you've said, you've grown up with the acting industry in Canada, and I feel like I've grown up with you through all the shows that I've loved over the years. You're there in almost everything, it seems like, that I've loved through my lifetime. So it's fantastic that you got to play Reed Richards. I think it was a wonderful casting, and you bring such an awesome aspect to Mr. Fantastic Reed Richards that I think is superb. When they cast you, they definitely knew what they were doing.
Thanks for saying. I appreciate it. When I auditioned for that part, I had no idea that I would be considered seriously. I mean, I think thinking back, I think the original audition breakdown said something like, "Think a young George Clooney."
That's funny. That's funny.
Something like that. So they definitely envisioned the character being pretty suave.
Yeah.
And I recall my voice, I think, naturally has a bit of a gravel in it. So I was conscious of taking that out and making a character a little bit younger than I was at the time, and certainly a lot younger than I am now. But other than that, it was, I think, pretty close to my natural speaking voice.
Yeah.
But with animation, obviously, there's always, you have to add about 100% more energy.
Absolutely.
You ordinarily would speaking. Even if it seems naturalistic, there's just so much more energy involved when you're in the recording studio.
Oh, absolutely. Well, speaking of superheroes, Hiro, what is your favorite superhero?
That's an interesting question. I would have to go with, I might have to go with Batman.
Okay.
Insofar as he doesn't actually have superpowers.
True, yeah.
He's just a regular human being who is able to, through his technology and his wits and his training, able to compete in that superhero universe. I think for that reason, he's more relatable than a superhero like, let's say, Spider-Man, who has, altered DNA.
Yeah.
Or even Superman, who's from another planet. Although Superman maybe would be a close second, because I think as an immigrant to planet Earth and as a kind of a fish out of water, I think a lot of people can relate to that part of Superman's identity.
Yeah, I definitely see that. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad it's Batman. It is kind of a hard toss-up sometimes. I think Batman and Iron Man are my favorite, but they're both kind of that same, regular guy, no superpowers, but they use their wits and their money to kind of help them in their arsenal to fight crime. So I love that.
Right. Yes, I agree.
Well, Hiro, here's another question, hero related. If you could choose to be any hero, who would it be?
Like an existing hero?
Anything.
Or, I mean,
you could
are
make
you
one
talking
up, or
about
it could be.
if I had a superpower?
If you had 3 superpowers, what would they be?
I have always wished I had the power of healing.
Okay.
I don't know that there is a superhero out there who that's his or her superpower.
Not that I really
But
think of, yeah.
I guess it's not the most exciting superpower, but I've often wished that I had that power. You know,
Yeah.
when you see people in chronic pain or after an injury, or you hear of, things on the news that just break your heart, and I just wish I could heal some people. I wish I had that power for sure. If we're talking about more conventional superpowers, I think certainly, the strength.
Yeah.
The strength. Time travel. There's so many superpowers. I mean,
I know,
really,
right?
any superpower would be pretty fantastic, really, if you think about it.
Absolutely.
But,
yeah.
But really, the one that really has always resonated with me is that power of healing.
Absolutely. Well, something, Hiro, I think you do have the power to heal, because actors have the power to make people laugh and smile, and that is the best medicine. So I believe you truly are a healer through what you do, and actors make the world a better place. And I think through the career choice that you've chosen and been a part of, I think you do bring healing to others through your career and the acting that you've done and the shows that you've done and brought us laughter and wonderful drama, and just whatever you do, you bring smiles to people's face, because you're an excellent actor, man.
Well, thank you. That's very generous of you. I mean, I think that is a very generous view of the acting profession. I know that we can often come across as being spoiled and self-involved divas, but I think, as you say, at root, all of us, when we first entered into this profession, I won't say all of us, but I think many young actors, when they first enter into the profession, they enter into it with precisely the kind of aspirations that you've just mentioned. I don't think, well, nowadays I'm not sure, but certainly when I was coming up, most young actors that I knew, they weren't thinking about being famous or being celebrities. They were dedicated to a craft and learning a craft, and as you say, trying to figure out how to use their creativity and their art to inspire and entertain people.
Absolutely.
And to explore something about the human condition.
Absolutely. I think that is dead on, Hiro, and I'm just so glad we've gotten to talk about some of these things. Hiro related, this kind of throws in, with you talking about growing up with the entertainment industry up there in Canada, what has it been like to be a part of so many amazing shows from the CW, such as Smallville, Arrow, DC's Legends of Tomorrow, and The 100, just to name a few. You've played on so many different hero shows, whether it be animated or live action, TV, or films such as Elektra. So it's been amazing that you've been a part of so many DC and Marvel entities. What has it been like for you to be a part of these universes time and time again?
It's been a real pleasure. I think, a part of me has never grown up from being a kid.
Yeah.
And as a kid, those were stories, those were comics, graphic novels that I enjoyed and fantasized about being a part of. And so as a grown adult, to actually be a part of those worlds is it's kind of a dream come true.
Yeah.
And as someone with a visual arts background, it's always a huge thrill for me, especially given the production values nowadays, to walk onto some of these sets and see firsthand what the set deck people have come up with.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just wow to see the costumes, to see the sets, to see some of the action sequences and how they're filmed and so on. So that aspect of it has definitely been a real thrill for me. Of course, as the type of career that I've had, I have not had the privilege of being with one show, let's say, for multiple number of years.
Yeah.
And that is something that at times I have wished I had more job security in that sense, you know.
I understand, yeah.
But,
yeah.
but you know, looking back now, I can't say that I regret having had the opportunity to jump from show to show and get to see all of these different worlds. You know, if I was attached to one show for a long time, I don't know that I would have had that opportunity. And I've met, you know, so many actors who have been attached to a franchise for a long time, and then, you know, as much as we love our work and as rewarding as it is, when you're attached to something for 7 or 8 years, it gets old.
Yeah. And then sometimes it's also hard for people to see you as anything else after that, you know?
That's right. That is another definite kind of setback that some actors have, and it's hard to stay motivated sometimes. So I'm very lucky, and I'm very glad that I've had the career that I've had, being able to move from one thing to another. And my personality is really kind of suited to that, you know, a project-based kind of existence.
Yeah, yeah.
Move one project, finish that, move on to the next project. It keeps things fresh for me, and that's the way I like it.
Absolutely.
Although my kids are getting older now and more expensive, so I think I need to move into a little bit more of a secure job situation.
Okay. Well, we'll pray that happens for you in the days ahead. Maybe they'll pull you on at DC Legends full time as Director Bennett, maybe, or something.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, just so people know, because we didn't mention the names, you played Principal Kwan on 6 episodes in Smallville. You were Dr. Lamb in 2 episodes of Arrow, and Dr. Bennett, 3 episodes so far on DC's Legends of Tomorrow. All of those shows, except for Smallville right now, are still running. So maybe Arrow or DC Legends could bring you back. But you've also been on the 100. You were a character just named Council Member number 3, but you were on 4 episodes of that. That was an amazing show. I can't wait for this next season that's going to be coming out here in about 60 days, I think, or so. But, you know, the one thing is, I've just started introducing my wife, Hiro, to Smallville for the very first time. She's really into Arrow and Legends and Flash and Supergirl and all that going on right now on CW, but she's never partaken in Smallville, and we are just now in the middle of season 2. Unfortunately, your character did get killed off in the end of season 1, and we were sad about that. And she was like, oh, she's like, I liked Principal Kwan. So, you know, it's really fun for me to experience this, already being a fan of Smallville, seeing all 10 seasons, and introducing my wife. So she was really excited to hear we were going to be doing an interview today.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
That's great to hear.
Absolutely. Well, you know, speaking of some other TV shows of note, these aren't necessarily CW related. Some shows that I've absolutely loved you on were Almost Human. Of course, you mentioned the X-Files earlier. Timeless, Sliders, one of my absolute favorite of all times. The Outer Limits, Stargate SG-1, another all-time favorite. And of course, Heroes Reborn. We're visiting Heroes again, where you played Hachiro Atomo on 8 episodes of that series. That was a fantastic reboot of Heroes, the original series, and it was awesome to get to see you be a part of that. What was it like to be on Heroes and some of those other great shows we talked about?
Yeah, Heroes was that was a little bit different for me because it was shot in Toronto, and so that involved quite a bit of travel for me. They would and because I can't remember exactly what the deal was, but it might have been I was concurrently shooting Man in the High Castle in Vancouver that fall, I believe. So they couldn't just keep me in Toronto for the whole time.
Yeah.
And so it literally involved me flying out to Toronto on, say, a Monday or a Tuesday, and then shooting that week, and then flying back home Friday.
Wow.
So, you know, it was a lot of travel, but on the other hand, I got to be with my kids, my family during the weekend.
Yeah.
So it was actually a great experience. I probably wound up making something like 12 trips to Toronto.
In like 12 weeks.
During the 3 or 4 months that I was on that show. I made a lot of great connections on that show. That's when I first met James Middleton, who is one of the producers of Altered Carbon.
Awesome.
So, and some of the actors on that show, Toru Uchikado, most notably, I'm still in touch with him. We're hoping to work together on something upcoming.
Oh, cool.
But it was a great experience.
That's
Absolutely
fantastic. Well, I mean, all the shows we've talked about so far, Hiro, you've worked with amazing stellar casts and crews and directors and producers. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And the opportunity you've had, although you haven't been tied down to just one show as a mainstay character, you've had, like you said, such an opportunity to mingle and to meet people in your industry, that you probably would have never gotten had you been just set on one show for a while, for several years. So I'm sure it's been really helpful to you, and your career I think it really has exploded. As we get into the last two things we're really going to talk about today, The Man in the High Castle, and of course, Netflix's Altered Carbon, which has exploded on the internet. It's exploded everywhere. Like, everybody's talking about it. And I blew through it and was like, when is season 2 coming out? Because it was just so amazing and visually stunning. But before we get there, I want to talk about The Man in the High Castle, because it also blew my mind away, because I've always been one of those what if kind of guys. Like, what if the Americans lost World War II? Like, what would our world have been like? This show is like my dreams and my envisioning of the world that could have been. And it like blows my mind away with the things I've dreamed up as a kid. How they came up with the show, I will never know. But you've played on that show in 5 different episodes. And what has it been like for you to be part of such an amazing show? I believe it's the one that airs on Amazon, I believe. Is that right?
That's right. It's an Amazon Prime series.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
And yes, and as you say, that is a tremendous universe. And it's based on a Philip K. Dick novel.
Okay.
Who and I'm sure Philip K. Dick obviously is the man who Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Is based on another of his novels. I believe the original title of that novel was Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? I might be mistaken, but I think that is the original title of the novel that Blade Runner is based on. But Man in the High Castle, yes, it's another Philip K. Dick novel that was adapted, and as you say, it's just it was a fascinating look into an alternative future of what might have been had the Nazis and the Japanese won World War II. And as we get into talking about these more recent shows, I think the thing that we really have to talk about is how the production values for these series have really exploded. Not so much on the network shows, but for these specialty channels and for the streaming.
Absolutely, yeah.
For the streaming providers like Amazon and Netflix, the production values are really approaching feature film level.
Yeah.
They have the money, and they're bringing in top flight directors, actors, producers, writers, and they're able to because I think everyone recognizes that the quality work is now happening in this medium of serial narratives. I mean, it's the golden age of the serial narrative, and so my first impression of Man in the High Castle was, wow, what incredible production values! Once
Absolutely.
Again, just walking on. My first taste of that was just the first wardrobe fitting. The attention to detail. It's not uncommon to go in for a wardrobe fitting for a TV show, and you're in and out in less than half an hour.
Yeah.
You try on a few shirts, try on a few suits, and bingo, bango, you're out.
Yeah.
But with shows like Man in the High Castle, Altered Carbon, and some others I've done recently for these streaming providers, the production values are so high, and the wardrobe fitting, the attention to detail is like on a feature film.
Wow.
So that was my first taste of it, and then the first cast reading when I saw, the cast walking on set, seeing the production values of the sets, and just walking through the production office and seeing all of the design concepts, and you immediately get a sense of, well, this is going to visually be something special, something stunning.
Yeah.
So that was my experience working on that show. My character, I think, met a very untimely end, an abrupt and untimely end. I'm guessing, but it may have had something to do with the change in showrunner that happened midway through the second season. You may have heard Frank Spotnitz, who was the original showrunner. He parted ways with the show midway through the second season.
Yeah.
And then they kind of went on hiatus to figure out what to do. And then, it was right after they came back from hiatus that the episode came out, and I was, killed off.
Yeah. It did seem kind of abrupt. It did.
I don't know that was an original plan at the start of the season, because when I went into the wardrobe fitting at the beginning of the season, there were actually some wardrobe pieces that suggested there was going to be, a lot more happening for that character.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a regret of mine. But what can I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
It is what it is, and that happened. And the producers were very kind enough to phone me up beforehand and explain the situation, and they were, explain that they didn't really want to kill me off, but the way the story was going, that's what they had to do. So I don't have any bad feelings about that.
But with all the time travel stuff and the alternate world things going on, maybe you'll pop up in the other world sometime.
Well, that's been suggested. I mean, I think that when you watch the show, I get the sense that you actually do have to die to show up in Minister Tagomi's alternate universe.
Okay.
I think I may be wrong, but the sense that I get is that only characters who have died in the, quote unquote real world, get to show up later on in Tagomi's alternate universe. But I don't know. I have no idea what will become of the Yakuza boss. So.
Well, if you come back, I would be super excited.
Well, so would I.
But I know I've already seen a preview for season 3, and they're talking about, the Nazis are talking about building a machine that can get them from world to world, different universes or whatever it actually is. And so I'm like, if that's true, maybe we'll see again. That would be awesome. So,
yeah.
But anyway, we're definitely going to dive into Altered Carbon now. It's super amazing visually, and like you said, the sets are amazing, the costumes, everything. And I know this is the first show shot in 8K, and it's just visually pops. It's so stunning, and it's unlike anything I've ever seen. Absolutely.
I think for all of those reasons you've mentioned, that that is one of the reasons why it has so much buzz about it. The last 2 weeks since it dropped, it's just from the scripts to the cast that was assembled, everything about it is just A-list, and I'm just super thrilled to have been a part of it.
Absolutely. Well, it's amazing to see how your career has literally exploded, Hiro. I mean, you're in everything now. It seems like I can't watch anything anymore without seeing you, and I love it.
Well, I got to keep the kids fed. Having said that, I am at a point where I do have to be more choosy and trying not to get overexposed.
Yeah.
And trying not to get typecast as for instance, a detective or a hard-ass authority figure.
Yeah.
So, Altered Carbon has definitely given me a lot more exposure, and I'm kind of at a crossroads in my career now where I have to obviously take advantage of that, but I got to be careful about my next move and make sure that I keep my options open as an actor, as opposed to getting pigeonholed into something or attached to something that not necessarily going to sustain my interest over the long term.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, Hiro, do you know if we can expect to see a season 2 of Altered Carbon, or can you say?
I'm not privy to all the details, but I do know that that there are some scripts being developed.
Okay.
And I also know and this is from things I've read, and as well as some conversations that I've had with one of the producers. In a season 2 of Altered Carbon may not involve anyone in season 1.
Okay.
The reason being, there are 3 books, right?
Okay.
And each book actually takes place on a completely different world. So if they are following the trajectory of the books, which I believe they are, then season 2 of Altered Carbon will take place on a completely different world, many, many years separated from season 1.
Okay.
And it's very likely that the cast will be, predominantly very different from the cast of season 1.
Oh, okay.
That's my understanding at this point, anyways.
Well, I'm not very familiar with the books that have spawned Altered Carbon, the show, but I've definitely heard that they had come from a book. But I'm more of a visual person than a reader myself, so.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I'm just so glad you got to be a part of it, and it has been such a buzz. I mean, since it hit Netflix 2 weeks ago, it seems like anybody's talking about right now. So.
Yeah, it's. And I think that's understandable, just from the visual impact, but also the dystopian storyline and the references. It references obviously other science fiction archetypes. A lot of people compare it, for instance, to Blade Runner.
Yeah.
And so there's definitely a built-in audience for it, but I think that aside from that, not all, but like many dystopian stories, it has something to say that's relevant about our current social condition, and I think that for those reasons, it goes beyond a mere entertainment, and I think that audiences are finding many reasons to find the show compelling beyond the eye candy. Let's say,
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I love that Netflix and Amazon Prime and all these companies are finally able to produce stuff, like you said, at such a high quality all around. I'm starting to see these shows come out that I'm like, this is better than anything I can go see in the theater almost. They've gotten to a point where they're almost surpassing feature films, I feel, in some aspects, because they don't have the limitations that films have that have to go to theaters and DVD and that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, I think that the business model in the entertainment industry is really in flux. It's pretty astonishing to think that a handful of years ago the bulk of my income would have come from the traditional models, network shows, let's say, and studio films, and the last 2 years, and especially, but the last 2 years, I would say the bulk of my income now is coming from streaming providers.
Wow, that's insane.
Like Netflix, like Amazon, and specialty channels on cable, and it's crazy to think that it's not that long ago that Netflix was this company that mailed you DVDs.
Yeah. Or they were the company that had all the other movies that were already out on their system, but they didn't have anything new or just Netflix-based content. But it's amazing because they've been able to pick up shows that have either been canceled, like, what is it? Family Oh gosh, I'm totally blanking out on it. But you know, they're picking up shows that have either been canceled or whatever, and they're bringing them to Netflix and continuing. And then the fans are going nuts because now it's not just bringing old content for us to rewatch again and again, but they're bringing us new stuff, and it's stellar.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah, it's.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
Hiro.
we got to stay on my toes to as the industry keeps changing.
Yeah, I bet you do. Hiro, I have two final questions for you, and we will wrap this interview up. The first of the two is, what kind of advice would you give to a young aspiring actress or actor, or maybe somebody who's already kind of started in the field, but they aren't sure where to head, maybe what kind of direction to start their career?
That's a tough one. I think the industry is very different even from when I started out.
Yeah.
There's just so much more chatter, more white noise out there with social media and everything. But I think at root, being an actor really is the same. You do need that core training, and aside from that, if you ask 10 actors who've had sustained careers how they managed to do it, how they got to where they got, you will get 10 different answers. There's no one path. There's no magic technique or method. Everybody has to find their own way.
Yeah.
And my way wouldn't necessarily be right for someone else. Everyone also, you have to keep in mind, every actor fits into a different demographic.
Yeah.
In my case, I'm obviously a visible minority of Asian ancestry, and so my challenges and my advantages are not going to be the same as a kid from Nebraska.
Yeah.
An all-American kid from Nebraska, or an African American actor, or a Latino actor. Everyone has their own disadvantages and advantages in this industry, and everyone's got to find their own path. So I don't know that any advice that I could give would be relevant to everyone, other than to say that yes, you do need to train, and you do need to have that passion and that creativity to inspire people and entertain, as we talked about early on in this interview.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's great advice, Hiro. And everybody needs to start with the basics and work from there, because every journey is a little bit different.
Absolutely, yes.
Absolutely. Well, the last and final question I have for you today, Hiro, is what is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
The legacy.
Yes, sir.
I have not even started to think about that.
Okay.
I'm still aspiring. I don't feel that I'm anywhere near the end or I don't even feel like I'm at the tail end of a career. I think I'm still aspiring to get to the next level.
Absolutely.
And as I said, my life has been involved in the arts in one aspect or another for my entire adult days. So I'm all about creating meaningful art, and film and television is not always about that, but I'm definitely interested in creating work that has artistic merit and is going to have a long life beyond the 15 minutes of fame or the news cycle or what's hot now, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm hopefully years from now, when I hang it up, I will have a body of work that I can be proud of and that has withstood the test of time.
Absolutely. I think so. I mean, it's like everyone's talking about Altered Carbon 2 weeks after it dropped, but will they still be talking about it like this in 250 years?
Well, that's exactly my point.
Absolutely.
I think as artists, we all want to great work that will live on and continue to inspire people generation after generation.
Absolutely. I think that is an absolutely great and wonderful legacy that you want to leave behind, Hiro. And I cannot thank you enough for the time we've had today.
Oh, it was my pleasure entirely.
Well, Hiro, it has been an absolute honor and pleasure having you on the show today. Would you please give us a special closeout today as Reed Richards from the Fantastic Four?
Hi, fans. This is Reed Richards. I've had a fantastic time here on Who Did That Voice. This has been Hiro Kanagawa. It's been my absolute pleasure.
Well, everyone, I sure hope you enjoyed today's episode with Hiro Kanagawa, the voice of Mr. Fantastic, and so much more. And if you did, please find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram by searching Who Did That Voice. I would love to hear from you. You know, a question you might ask yourself is, where can I listen to Who Did That Voice? That's an excellent question. You can hear us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and our website at www.whodidthatvoice.co. Click the Episodes tab and listen away. Well, everyone, that's all the time we have for this episode. Join us next time for our special guest, Keith Coogan, the voice of young Todd from Disney's The Fox and the Hound. You won't want to miss this episode. Hey, do you ask yourself who did that voice? Well, if you do, go to our website, www.whodidthatvoice.co, and click on the Episodes tab. Choose an actor, pick their name, and see pictures from the different characters they voiced in their career.
Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next time for more discoveries on Who Did That Voice.